How manipulators control you. Most people believe manipulation requires words. They think control demands conversation. They are wrong. The most dangerous form of influence happens in the space between sentences, in the micro-expressions you barely register, in the emotional currents that shift beneath the surface of every interaction. You are being moved like a piece on a board, and the game began long before you realized you were playing. Today, you learn the 4 tactics manipulators use for you without saying a word. They don't argue, they adjust your emotions. The amateur manipulator uses logic. The master manipulator uses feeling. When someone wants to control you, they do not waste energy trying to change your mind. Your mind is fortified. It has defenses, rationality, evidence, the illusion of free will. But your emotions are a door left unlocked. Consider this scenario. You are in a meeting. You present an idea. A colleague does not respond immediately. Instead, they lean back in their chair. They exhale slowly, visibly. Their eyes drift to the ceiling as if calculating something difficult. Then they look at you with what appears to be concern. They have said nothing, but you already feel it. Doubt. The creeping suspicion that perhaps you missed something, that perhaps your idea is not as solid as you believed. This is not an accident. This is architecture. The skilled manipulator understands that your emotional state determines your decisions far more than your thoughts ever will. So they do not argue with your logic. They recalibrate your confidence. They introduce uncertainty where certainty existed. They create discomfort in your conviction. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. But the manipulator reverses this principle. They make you believe that outside events, specifically their reactions, should govern your internal state. Here is how it works in practice. You express enthusiasm about a new direction in your life. The manipulator does not tell you it is a bad idea. Instead, they go quiet. Their energy shifts. They offer a subtle frown, a slight nod that communicates not agreement, but pity. As if you have said something naive, something they once believed too, before they knew better. You leave that conversation feeling different, not because anything was said, but because something was transmitted, a frequency of doubt. And now that frequency plays in your mind on repeat. The ancient Stoics taught that external events hold no power over your inner state unless you grant them permission. But manipulation operates by making you forget you have that power. It makes the manipulator's emotional response feel like objective reality rather than subjective theater. You must understand this. Every emotional reaction you witness is a choice someone made. When a manipulator looks disappointed in you, that disappointment is a tool. When they seem hurt by your boundaries, that hurt is strategy. When they radiate approval after you comply, that approval is reward conditioning. They are not responding to you. They are sculpting you. The antidote is simple in theory, brutal in practice. You must learn to separate their emotional performance from your internal experience. When someone sighs with exasperation, you must recognize it as their behavior, not your failure. When someone withdraws warmth, you must see it as their tactic, not your inadequacy. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The manipulator weaponizes your imagination. They plant the seed of an emotional scenario, disappointment, rejection, failure, and let your mind grow it into a forest of anxiety. But here is the truth they do not want you to know. Your emotions are yours. The moment you let someone else's mood dictate your mental state, you have handed them the controls to your life. 2. Eye contact, tone, and timing are their weapons. Words can lie. The body always tells the truth, and the manipulator knows this. They have studied the invisible language that governs human interaction, not through books or courses, but through observation, through trial and error, through the cold recognition that people respond more to how you say nothing than to what you say. Let us begin with eye contact. There are 3 types: too little, too much, and calibrated. The manipulator never uses the first. Avoiding eye contact signals weakness, uncertainty, deception. They need you to trust them, so they employ the second and third strategically. Too much eye contact, held without breaking, triggers primal discomfort. It is the stare of a predator, of someone who refuses to blink first. The manipulator uses this when they want to dominate, when they want you to feel seen, exposed, vulnerable. They hold your gaze 3 seconds longer than social convention allows, and in those 3 seconds, you feel the urge to explain yourself, to fill the silence, to submit. But calibrated eye contact is more sophisticated. This is the warm gaze, the one that lingers with apparent affection, that makes you feel understood, chosen, special. The manipulator uses this when they want to bond you to them. They look at you the way no one else does, with intensity, with focus, and you mistake this performance for intimacy. The Renaissance diplomat Niccolò Machiavelli understood that appearing virtuous is more useful than being virtuous. The manipulator understands that appearing emotionally present is more powerful than being emotionally present. Their eye contact is not connection. It is control dressed as connection. Now, tone. A manipulator's voice is an instrument they have trained like a violinist trains their fingers. They know that the same sentence can create entirely different realities depending on how it is delivered. Imagine 3 versions of the phrase, "I'm fine." Version 1, flat, monotone, clipped. This communicates, "You have done something wrong, and I am withholding the specifics to make you work for forgiveness." Version 2, bright, slightly elevated pitch, forced lightness. This communicates, "I am clearly not fine, and my exaggerated cheerfulness is designed to make you feel guilty for not pressing further." Version 3, steady, neutral, with a barely perceptible edge of weariness. This communicates, "I am disappointed in you, but I am too mature to say it directly." The manipulator cycles through these tones with precision. They never lose control of their voice because their voice is their blade. They can make a compliment feel like criticism. They can make a question feel like accusation. They can make silence feel like punishment. Watch how they modulate volume. When they want to seem reasonable, they lower their voice. You lean in, you focus. You become complicit in the intimacy they are manufacturing. When they want to overwhelm you, they do not necessarily shout. Sometimes they simply become relentless. A steady stream of words, delivered without pause, until your ability to form counter-arguments collapses under the weight of their verbal endurance. And then there is timing. The manipulator understands rhythm. They know that communication is not just what you say, but when you say it. They text you late at night, when your defenses are down, when you are tired and more likely to agree to things you would refuse in daylight. They bring up difficult topics right before you have to leave for something important, so you cannot fully engage. But the unresolved tension follows you throughout your day. They offer praise immediately after you have doubted yourself, conditioning you to seek their validation. They withdraw attention right after you have given them yours, teaching you that their presence is a reward you must earn. The ancient Greeks had a concept, kairos, the opportune moment. Not chronological time, but the right time. The opening, the vulnerability. The manipulator is always watching for kairos, for the moment when your guard drops, when you are hungry or tired, or already emotional about something else. That is when they strike. Because they understand what behavioral psychology confirmed decades later. Context shapes response. The same request made at different times yields different results. And if they control the timing, they control the outcome. You must develop awareness of these 3 weapons. When someone holds eye contact too long, recognize it as a tactic, not intensity. When someone's tone shifts subtly, hear it as manipulation, not mood. When someone chooses a specific moment to engage you, see it as strategy, not spontaneity. The body does not lie, but it can be weaponized. The moment you stop reading their nonverbal cues as authentic expression and start reading them as intentional design, you stop being moved by them. 3. They pause before replying to make you anxious. Silence is the manipulator's scalpel, and they wield it with surgical precision. You ask a question, a simple one, something that should receive an immediate answer. But instead, there is a pause. Not the natural pause of thinking, but the extended pause, the one that lasts 5 seconds, 10 seconds. long enough that you begin to feel it, the discomfort, the doubt. In that silence, you are no longer waiting for an answer. You are questioning whether you should have asked at all. This is intentional. This is theater. The manipulator has learned that human beings cannot tolerate uncertainty. We are pattern-seeking machines. We need closure, resolution. When we ask a question, we expect the loop to close, but the manipulator keeps the loop open. They let it dangle. They let the silence expand until it becomes its own message. What does the silence communicate? Many things, depending on context. You have said something foolish, and I am deciding how to respond to your foolishness. I am disappointed in you. And this pause is me collecting myself so I do not say what I really think. Your question does not deserve an immediate answer. You do not deserve my immediate attention. I am considering whether you are worth my truth. Each of these interpretations plants itself in your mind during the silence, and the longer the silence extends, the more anxious you become. Anxiety is discomfort seeking resolution, and the manipulator knows that an anxious person is a controllable person. Let me give you a specific example. You are in a relationship. You have noticed a pattern of behavior that concerns you. You gather your courage and say, "Can we talk about what happened last night?" A healthy response arrives within 2 seconds. Of course, what's on your mind? But the manipulator does not give you this. Instead, they stop what they are doing. They turn slowly. They look at you, and then they wait. Their expression is neutral, unreadable. The pause extends. 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds. You begin to fill the silence in your mind. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should not have brought this up. Maybe I'm about to start a fight over nothing. And then finally, they speak. But what they say is less important than what the pause already accomplished. The pause made you doubt yourself. It made you feel like the problem. It shifted the power dynamic before a single word was exchanged. The psychological principle at work here is called the uncertainty effect. Research shows that uncertainty generates more stress than negative certainty. In other words, not knowing is worse than knowing something bad. The manipulator exploits this. They keep you in the state of not knowing. They stretch the uncertainty until it becomes unbearable, until you would rather withdraw your question than endure another moment of that silence. The philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. The manipulator reverses this. They use your inability to sit comfortably in uncertain silence as a lever. They make you so uncomfortable with the pause that you rush to fill it. You over-explain. You soften your original question. You apologize for asking. And just like that, they have won without speaking a word. But here is what you must understand. The pause is only powerful if you give it power, if you react to it, if you let it generate the intended anxiety. The counter move is simple but requires practice. When someone pauses before responding, you pause too. You breathe. You wait. You refuse to interpret their silence as judgment. You refuse to fill the void with your anxiety. Because here is the secret. The manipulator expects you to break first. They expect you to become uncomfortable and start backtracking. When you do not, when you simply wait with calm neutrality, the power of their pause evaporates. The ancient practice of meditation teaches you to observe thoughts without attaching to them. Apply this to social dynamics. Observe the pause. Notice your urge to fill it, but do not act on that urge. Let the silence exist. Let them sit in the discomfort they tried to create for you. When you stop interpreting strategic silence as meaningful communication, you stop being controlled by it. Silence is only a weapon when you fear it. The moment you become comfortable with uncertainty, their primary tool becomes useless. They smile right after insulting you. This is perhaps the most sinister technique in the manipulator's arsenal, the smile that follows the blade. You have experienced this, even if you did not have language for it. Someone says something cutting, something that stings, but immediately after, they smile, warmly, broadly, as if they have just shared a joke. The smile creates cognitive dissonance. Your emotional brain registers the insult. You feel the sting, but your social brain sees the smile and interprets it as friendliness. These two signals contradict each other, and in that contradiction, your ability to respond appropriately short-circuits. You think, was that actually an insult? They are smiling, so maybe it was meant playfully. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Maybe I should smile back. And so you do. You smile back. You laugh it off. You participate in your own subjugation. This technique has a name in psychological literature: hostile humor or aggressive joking. But that clinical language does not capture the full manipulation at work. What the manipulator has done is deliver a message on two channels simultaneously. The content channel carries the insult. The delivery channel carries the smile. When these channels contradict, most people default to trusting the delivery. We are trained from childhood to read facial expressions as indicators of intent. A smile means friendliness. A smile means safety. But the manipulator has learned to hijack this mechanism. They weaponize the smile. They use it to smuggle cruelty past your defenses. Let me give you a concrete scenario. You are at a social gathering. You share a story about something you are proud of, a small victory, a personal achievement. As you finish, someone says, "Well, we cannot all have the luxury of low standards." Then they smile, bright and warm. Perhaps they even laugh lightly. The room moves on, but you do not. That comment sits in your stomach like a stone. Did they just insult you? It felt like an insult, but they were smiling. Everyone else laughed. Maybe you misunderstood. You did not misunderstand. You were attacked. The smile was the getaway car. This technique serves multiple purposes for the manipulator. First, it allows them to insult you without social consequences. If you confront them, they have plausible deniability. "I was joking. Can't you take a joke? Why are you so sensitive?" The smile becomes evidence that you misinterpreted their intent. Second, it trains you to doubt your perceptions. Over time, repeated exposure to this pattern makes you question your ability to accurately read social situations. You begin to second-guess your reactions. This erosion of trust in your own judgment is precisely what the manipulator wants. A person who doubts their perceptions is easier to control. Third, it isolates you. When insults are delivered with smiles, bystanders do not register them as attacks. They see joking, banter, camaraderie. If you react with hurt or anger, you appear to be overreacting to nothing. You become the problem, the sensitive one, the one who cannot handle playful teasing. The 18th century philosopher Voltaire understood this dynamic when he wrote about the danger of absurdity. He said, "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." The principle applies here. When someone can make you believe that an insult delivered with a smile is not really an insult, they can make you accept almost any abuse as long as it is wrapped in the right packaging. The antidote requires you to separate content from delivery. This is difficult because it goes against social conditioning, but it is necessary. When someone says something hurtful, your first response should not be to check their facial expression for permission to feel hurt. Your first response should be to evaluate the content of their words. What did they actually say? What did those words communicate? How would you feel about that statement if it were delivered with a neutral expression? If the words themselves are insulting, then the smile is camouflage, not context. Here is how you respond. When someone insults you and then smiles, you do not smile back. You do not laugh it off. You pause. You let the dissonance sit in the air for a moment. Then you calmly address the content, not the delivery. That is an interesting thing to say. What did you mean by that? This simple question does two things. It forces them to own the content of their words without the protection of the smile. And it demonstrates that you are not confused by their performance. You heard what they said, you registered it, and you are not pretending it did not happen. The manipulator relies on you playing along. When you refuse to play along, when you insist on clarity and directness, their technique loses power. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "The most common form of human stupidity is forgetting what one is trying to do." The manipulator hopes you forget that someone who insults you is not your friend, regardless of how they smile while doing it. A smile is not an apology. A smile is not permission. A smile is not proof of good intent. When cruelty arrives wearing a grin, it is still cruelty. Trust the wound, not the weapon's decoration. You have learned 4 techniques, but understand this. These techniques are not isolated tactics. They are threads in a larger pattern, a pattern of control that operates beneath conscious awareness. The manipulator does not need your compliance. They need your confusion. They need you to doubt what you perceive, to question what you feel, to believe that their emotional reactions are more valid than your boundaries. Every pause, every smile, every calibrated glance is designed to make you forget a simple truth. You are not obligated to manage someone else's emotions. You are not responsible for interpreting someone's unspoken expectations. You are not required to tolerate disrespect simply because it arrives with good packaging. The Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But I will add to his wisdom, "You have power over your interpretation, not over their performance. Realize this, and you will find freedom." The manipulator's greatest trick is not what they do to you. It is what they convince you to do to yourself. They plant the seed of doubt, and you grow the garden of anxiety. They deliver the first cut, and you deliver the rest by replaying it in your mind. But now you see the pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The next time someone adjusts your emotions without arguing, you will recognize it. The next time someone uses their eyes, their tone, their timing as instruments of influence, you will notice. The next time someone lets silence expand to make you squirm, you will remain still. The next time someone smiles after wounding you, you will see through the performance. This is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming clear. Not everyone who uses these techniques is a manipulator. Sometimes people have simply learned unhealthy patterns of communication. But whether the intent is conscious or unconscious, your response remains the same: awareness and boundaries. You owe no one access to your emotional state. You owe no one acceptance of their performance as your reality. You owe no one tolerance of behavior that diminishes you. The ancient Stoics taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Modern psychology confirms this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power to choose. The manipulator tries to eliminate that space. They try to make their stimulus trigger your response so quickly that you never notice the gap. They try to condition you like Pavlov conditioned his dogs. Stimulus, response, no consciousness in between. But you are not a dog. You are not a machine. You are a human being with the capacity for awareness. And awareness is the only tool you need. Watch, notice, choose. When you feel your emotions being adjusted, pause and ask, whose emotion is this? When you feel yourself reacting to tone or timing, pause and ask, what am I responding to? When you feel anxiety rising from silence, pause and ask, what am I afraid of? When you feel confusion from contradictory signals, pause and ask, what actually happened? These questions create space, and in that space you reclaim your power. The manipulator operates in the shadows of your awareness. They rely on your autopilot, your conditioning, your desperate need to be liked, to be understood, to avoid conflict. But you do not need to be liked by people who diminish you. You do not need to be understood by people who refuse to communicate clearly. You do not need to avoid conflict with people who create it. What you need is clarity, boundaries, the courage to trust your perceptions even when someone's performance suggests you should not. This is the final truth, the one they hope you never learn. Their power exists only in your reaction. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you start responding consciously, deliberately, from a place of clarity rather than anxiety, they lose. Not because you defeated them, but because you stopped playing a game you never agreed to play. That is freedom. Not the freedom from manipulation. People will always try to influence you. But the freedom to see it clearly, and choose your response. And that choice, that conscious awareness, that refusal to surrender your emotional sovereignty, that is power they cannot take from you. Remember it.